In the meantime, we will move on to our next speaker, Lori D. EPA, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, please proceed and state your name and affiliation for the record.
My name is Lori, and I run Cancer Cluster Army North Carolina and Aaron's Anchors. In 2018, my 24-year-old son, Aaron, got testicular cancer. He spent the next 3 years going through surgeries, getting body parts chopped off, and going through several rounds of chemo. I watched him waste away. A month before his 28th birthday, he died in my arms. That was a little over a year ago. My testicular cancer is rare for the U.S. with only 9,000 new cases yearly, but it's noted in the top 2 for the men of North Carolina. There are 14 contaminated coal fire plants in my state. Every one of them has high rates of testicular cancer beside them, along with thyroid, brain, rare eye, blood. Where we live, there's 3 contaminated plants within 25 miles on the Catawba River. The Marshall plant has 35 million tons of coal ash. 16 million tons are being moved from the active ash pond back from the Lake Norman to create a mountain of coal ash over 200 feet tall right beside Sherrills Ford Elementary School. The rest of it will remain. There's a boron plume that will remain for centuries even with treatment. There's radiation in the groundwater from the uranium, radium, and thorium. The local town, Mooresville, was targeted for coal ash reuse by Duke Energy in the 90s. The local high school has had 29 new cases of cancer in the past 5 years. There was coal ash coming out of the ground beside it where the local commissioner abandoned coal ash 20 years ago, and then he got put on the task force for coal ash and cancer. Right up the road from that's the Tire Masters that's had a 30-foot coal ash sinkhole sitting open for 3 years. There's now toxins in the creek across from it. Nobody's doing anything. The local Lowe's has 500,000 tons of coal ash under it that's gotten into the groundwater. The Tudor Time Daycare has 100,000 tons of coal ash under it that no one even knows is there except me, because I'm the only one that's looked at the friggin' records. When our NCDQ does an inspection, those inspections are taken from their car windows. Our NCDQ has run the coal ash reuse program since 1987, where they've allowed coal ash to be sold for private use and used it themselves. And now we're supposed to look towards them to judge on this contamination in our cancer clusters. At the bottom of Lake Norman sits the Riverbend steam station that ran for a century with no scrubbers. They also burned liquid PCBs from the transformers there. Below that sits the second most contaminated coal fire plant in the country, where children are playing Little League, and I get thrown off plant property because I go out there and protest those children playing Little League on plant property. Right across the street, there's disabled children living on 1 million tons of coal ash that was placed there, and that now every creek on the property is contaminated. People all up and down the road have cancers, Alzheimer's, autoimmune diseases. Then there's the 300,000 acres of land that Duke Energy developed under their home building arm called Crescent Resources. They were allowed to use coal ash without recording where they put it, and they built every $1 million neighborhood, golf course, park, school on the Catawba River. And nothing's being done. Duke Energy, our politicians, they hold coal ash cancer cluster meetings for realtors that I was turned away from. Duke Energy uses you guys as an excuse to treat coal ash as a household waste and claim that it isn't toxic. That's why you need to deem it an official toxic waste. You need to regulate the closed coal ash ponds and legacy plants, regulate coal ash recycling, require warning signs and groundwater testing at these coal ash structural fields, label products with coal ash like drywall, upgrade contaminated areas to reverse osmosis water filtration, test wells beside these contaminated coal fire plants for 2 miles out, not a half a mile, require deep water testing beside the coal fire plants, treat coal ash pond water that's being decanted for cleanup, charge power companies under the RICO Act for misrepresenting the safety of their coal ash, just like they did the tobacco companies, because they have known for decades that it's dangerous. We've had contaminated sites for decades here. Federal investigations need to happen into our politicians and our NCDEQ members, because they are just as guilty as Duke Energy for allowing this to happen. Release all Crescent Resources coal ash structural field records, because our children's blood is on the hands of the power companies, the DEQ, and the EPA. My son is gone, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life exposing what has been done to us. Do your job. I'm sick of it. Every week I hear of new patients. My son's best friend growing up now has the same type of cancer that he died of. And this is supposed to be rare in this tiny little town. Nothing's being done. We're told we got to raise millions of dollars to prove coal-ash is dangerous. We got to do the research. Oh, I got to do your job for you? Okay, I'll do it. Fine.
Thank you for your comment.